Good morning. This is Lisa with the Dalles Area Chamber of Commerce, and today we are doing a webinar with Nichole Biechler of It's All a Little Gray. And the title today is Maintaining Mental Health and Mindfulness During COVID-19, as this is an important topic and we all deal with this at some level, either as our person, ourselves, or as an employer or as an employee, or even just a community member or a leader in our community. So Nichole, we welcome you and thank you for doing this with us today. And I'm going to turn this over to you right now and let's go from here.
Thank you very much. So a huge thank you to Josiah for being here this morning. I appreciate you wanting to spend some time together, and obviously a big thank you to you as Lisa as well for coordinating and being able to present this out to the community. Just a few housekeeping items I wanted to go over. If you do have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to interrupt or suggest or comment, whatever you feel comfortable doing. You will not offend me by any means. I think the more participation we can get from everyone, the more that we learn from each other as well. And we really are each other's best resources in our small community. Also, please make sure that you have pants on, because if your camera is on and you stand up, I want to make sure that nobody else sees that. So I will attempt to share my screen. This is my first major challenge of the day, so let's make sure it works here. And let's see. All right. Everybody can see that?
There you go.
Okay. All right. So a little about me really quick. Like Lisa mentioned, I have a human resources consulting business called It's All a Little Gray. I've been in human resources for about a decade, and after relentlessly being hounded by friends and family members about HR questions, I finally decided I should probably start charging them for it. So it's been good times the last year. So first, to start off, I wanted to just really kind of bring up this image because I want people to understand that there's a lot of different emotions that are associated with this image. And it's an image that we are obviously seeing quite a bit in the media, on TV, on Facebook, all of our social media accounts as well. And I really just want to kind of know, what does this image instill in you? Is it fear? Is it anxiety, depression, anger, relief possibly? When you see this, are you thinking to yourself, what the heck is that thing? Looks like somebody like paper macrame something together. But today we're really going to discuss what COVID-19 can teach us about mindfulness and our own mental health. And I want to make sure that I include information that's really useful to be able to incorporate into all of our daily lives and the lives of our staff, our teams, our colleagues, and our family, and as well as those resources that are currently available to us. Disclaimer, I am not a therapist or a counselor by trade. I just pretend to play one in my daily job. A lot of what HR is really just, I provide recommendations to my team. And sometimes that means being that mental health counselor. Sometimes it means being that mindfulness therapist. And really, at this point, we all obviously know mental health is a top priority at the moment. So here's some things that we are going to talk about today. Really, what is mindfulness? Are you being currently affected by it or not at all? How are you handling interactions and conversations with empathy and patience? And yes, I will validate the fact that this is a weird time for all of us. And it really is straight out of a sci-fi movie that none of us probably could have expected. We'll also discuss resources in our community on a local level, as well as on a national level. And yes, even the government can help. I did say that. All right, so what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is the psychological process of purposely bringing one's attention to experiences occurring in the present moment without judgment, which one develops through the practice of meditation and through other training. You're probably thinking, yeah, okay, whatever. But simply put, Mindfulness is a state of being conscious or aware of something and being aware of what is going on around you. A way of practicing emotional intelligence or literacy and knowing your surroundings and how to interact and move through a situation. So let's talk a little bit about how you're practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness does not have to maintain 6 feet of social distancing. You can practice mindfulness at any time throughout the day. And really at this point, I want to know, how are you all currently practicing mindfulness in our current social climate?
Well, I meditate twice a day, in the morning and at night. So that's been one of my biggest things. And then just the daily gratitude, although normally I take a walk in the yard and see how beautiful it is, but not today.
You want to get your feet wet today?
Yeah.
I like that. What about you, Lisa?
I would have to say my morning time and evening, the sunrise, sunset. That's my time with coffee or tea that I sit and just regroup, rethink, recalculate what tomorrow is going to bring. What did we do today? What did I forget today? How am I going to make a difference? And so that's kind of my, I don't have a specific meditation process, but staring at the sky with some coffee or tea, depending on which time of the day, seems to do that for me, to collect all those thoughts and assimilate them somehow, some way.
Nadia, do you care to comment?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm working from home out in Lyle, Washington. So if I turn the video on, then I may cut out. So it's one or the other. You know, I'm very lucky to work from home and look out the window and see the hummingbirds and the deer walk by, and my chickens and my cats. So when you know, I'm sitting at my computer 9 hours a day, which is very unusual for me because I'm usually out and about in the community and, you know, doing all the meetings online. Mindfulness to me means just to take a moment and enjoy where I'm sitting and not just like, you know, getting caught. It's easy to get caught on what's going on work-wise through the computer, and I'm sitting like, have the window in between me, and I feel like I'm in paradise and I don't even know it.
Nice way to put that. I appreciate that. All right, so let's dig in a little bit more. So I want to ask, everyone can kind of ask themselves 2 simple questions. And these questions can be very powerful for yourself as well as your team. And it allows everyone the ability to be able to connect with one another and address each other's challenges with empathy. And really those questions are you feeling how are you feeling emotionally or physically? And how are you bringing mindfulness to work? During COVID-19, it's essentially important because questions such as these can actually serve a very important purpose. They offer the opportunity to bring our attention to our mental and physical state and to mindfully observe in order to be less reactive and more responsive. In the face of such an uncertain and frightening times, we need to recognize that not only does this build a supportive team, but it also allows everyone an opportunity to identify feelings that they may potentially impede, which could also impede their strategic thinking and their actions to be able to stay clear, efficient, positive, and collaborative. So I invite everyone to take a moment right now to ask yourself and answer these questions to yourself. How are you feeling emotionally and physically in this moment? And how are you bringing mindfulness to your mental and physical state every day to work? Or to home if you're working from home? How are you making wise, responsible, caring choices during this outbreak? So these questions can be very helpful for creating equilibrium and equanimity during a time when you may feel totally out of control. How are you being affected? And I think that's a good question for each of us to ask. Some of us may think that, what we've endured is nothing compared to other things that we may have experienced during our lives. And we may not necessarily feel immediate impacts of COVID right now. But if you're someone who hasn't been affected by closures, work changes, or loss of income, life might be proceeding fairly normal and largely as usual, even though things aren't quite normal. But you may still be experiencing dread about what's to come. For others, life can be anything but unusual, or usual for that matter. Maybe a college student has been told to leave campus, but you can't afford a ticket home. You may be a parent whose child's school has closed, but you still have to go to work. You may have a job in an industry dependent upon people gathering, and with social distancing, your livelihood is on the line. You may also be elderly and relying on a retirement account that has plunged in value. You may be an overwhelmed healthcare worker on the front line of care. And you may be coughing, feverish, and scared that you have a case of COVID-19 yourself. You may also be someone in relatively secure circumstances whose empathy for others is causing you great apprehension. Panic and dread can accompany uncertainty, and these are among the most uncertain times that many people have ever experienced in their lifetime. Think about it. For the first time since we've been alive, actively participating in social isolation is a method to improve health. By creating much structure and predictability as you can with the pieces of your life that you can control, will allow you to process the rapid changes coming at you on a daily basis. Everyone reacts differently to stressful situations. How you react can depend on your background, the things that make you different from others, and your community. Extreme stress can affect the way that we act. Typically, cool-headed employees may seem really frazzled. Teams formally consistent in meeting deadlines and turning in high-quality work may become less predictable. This is not a time for tough love in your management or leadership style to get a team functioning well again. For most employees, social support and understanding are key ingredients to helping alleviate stress and adjust work-life expectations. It's important for you as a supervisor or manager to model self-care while supporting and responding to your employees' mental health during this pandemic. This can be done using emotional support and role modeling. Emotional support obviously involves letting employees know that they're being cared for and that they should feel comfortable discussing work and non-work related challenges. As a supervisor, you should convey that they are sensitive to the impact of COVID-19, and it does play a piece on an employee's life and work. Emotional support techniques can include providing comfort and monitoring for signs of struggle, such as distress, social withdrawal, poor performance, and knowing when to refer an employee to professionals. Recognizing that some employees may have families and loved ones who are requiring additional attention, so openly asking your staff how they're managing both work and non-work. So I will ask each of you again for your input. Do any of you currently work with your staff or your colleagues or even your spouses? Have you had conversations with them from an emotional support perspective? And what do those conversations look like?
This is Josiah here. That's an interesting concept because I have not consciously thought about providing emotional support. We're starting to do weekly meetings given the stress around, and we just do all that we can to be frank and honest and interact with the guests or our employees about the stresses that they're having. And anytime we go to do something, we ask if everybody's comfortable to do it. Obviously, there's some apprehension of cleaning rooms for people that we don't know. So we always check, and overall, I think we've got a really, really strong team here, and they're handling it surprisingly well. But I
And
think
just,
that's a good point that we should be focused a little bit more on the emotional support.
Josiah, can you talk about maybe some challenges that you've experienced with this with your staff?
Well, actually, like I said, I think our staff has handled it remarkably well, and they've come together quite strong in support. We had discussed earlier some of the challenges we're having with some folks in town, and it's actually really surprising that it's actually energized some of the staff that had otherwise been a little bit kind of, just kind of down, and now we kind of have something to rally around, I think.
There's a shared common purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Lisa, how about you?
So at the chamber, when this all happened, 3 of my 5 went remote, and 2 of us stayed here just because there's some things that you just cannot be doing remotely at the chamber. So one of us in the front office and back office. But we did weekly check-ins on Zoom with all of us. And then I did, excuse me, trying to sneeze here. Excuse me. It's allergies, even with the rain. So I also set up weekly meetings with my staff, just one-on-one. And the first questions I always ask is, how are you doing? How are you dealing with this? How do you feel? Which is not normal for me. I'm not an emotional-based person, but I am a social person. So I understood I needed to do those. But it was real. I was concerned. How do they feel about this? Are they afraid? Are they this? Are they comfortable now that we provided a safe environment for them to operate? And the biggest thing is they just missed the energy and interaction of us all being together. And that was the common thing. And then when we were going through things, we had to lay 2 people off out of our team due to budget cuts and everything else. And so we brought the 3rd person in. So I still meet with them weekly, just not through Zoom anymore. And we as a group talk about, where are we? Are we ready to open? Are we comfortable with that? Or do we still want to stay with one-on-one appointments? I'm letting them guide some of those decisions together as a team, because I got to know that they all are okay with this. But relatively, they're a strong, all of them are a strong team, and they were all finding ways. They were energized because we spent our time funneling and getting information to all the other businesses to help them. So we had a true purpose. It was slammed, and we still are, but our purpose was to help other businesses. So it redirected any of those emotions. We were so busy, and then we didn't have time to think about it till we got home. So that's how I started those conversations when I first, because we're all morning appointments. So that way I was really able to assess, where are you on this? And hopefully to provide comfort in that. But we're dealing with a lot of the emotion just because we see the hurt and struggles of our businesses, and we take it on our shoulders. So that's where we've tried to direct those conversations so that we don't go home with that on our shoulder. We know that we ended the day doing everything we could that day within our knowledge and power to help. And so we go home exhausted, but feeling good that we got that information to the people who needed it the most.
Nadia, what about you? And I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you, what kind of industry are you in?
Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's working? Oh my gosh. I got a good day. So I'm with the Department of Human Services, the Self-Sufficiency Unit. So I serve the 5 counties, Wasco, Sherman, Gillum, Wheeler, and whatever counties. So my role is I'm a community partnership coordinator. So I work with all community partners, the chamber, even though we're not a chamber member yet. But I'm kind of the liaison, broker, however you want to call it, between our case managers, the SNAP office, TANF clients, temporary assistance for needy families. I work with agencies that are contracted with the state. We have contracts with the college, with Haven. We serve domestic violence clients. I am a little bit a connector with child welfare. Child welfare is DHS, and we're in one building, but it's a little separate. So I'm very allocated to self-sufficiency to serve our clients that are on all of the self-sufficiency benefits. And the reason why I wanted to join today is our intakes now with high unemployment have quadrupled. So we're doing a lot of SNAP intakes, and as you can imagine, we're fairly small. We're the smallest district in the entire state, and so we don't have a whole lot of workers. And we have what's called a work share, so we get help from other workers throughout the state. But our workers have been all working from home and offer same-day, next-day services right now, even though our intakes have quadrupled, and they're actually helping others in the state. So that's how efficient they are. And but it doesn't come without some suffering as well. Many of us are isolated. I'm a social person. I'm an emotional social person. So I need to be out and about, need to get my hugs, need to chat, need to connect. That's kind of like my life. And so for me, yes, to appreciate where I'm sitting, it hurts me to just sit here and not be able to be hands-on. And I'm very compromised. I had cancer 10 years ago. So I have a zero tolerance. I don't have an immune system. So I kind of have to isolate myself. And even though I want to be on the forefront, so it's kind of bittersweet. What we're doing to connect our workers that are all out and about, in their homes, or just a few that are working. We have Skype meetings every day. So we have our Skype huddles just to talk about the caseloads, but we also do kind of like a wellness challenge and give each other some tips, like mindful eating, or, some people that are dealing with depression. We openly talk about this and the services that are available, how we can help each other, and just at least have that little check-in time. I do have some people that I Skype with on a regular basis, just to, other than my supervisor, who's awesome, but also just to check in, just to talk and kind of like reflect my feelings. Many of our community partners switched to Zoom and webinar meetings, and so sometimes that's what I have all day long. And when my video doesn't work, I don't see anybody. So I'm talking into a box, and it's just not my style. It's my new normal, and I learned how to deal with it because I know I have been helping from here, and I have been activating things to help our clients and help our population. But I'm just a hands-on person, so it's kind of hard for me to, not see, but also see the effects and see the successes that come through that, just being here and connecting the right people at the right time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely understand that. I think for a lot of people who are that social emotional, and that's their support system, is really based on that face-to-face interaction. That's a hard adjustment for people at this time as well. And I think, again, that's where that emotional support comes into play, is that even though we may not be able to sit down at a table together or in an office environment, there's still that piece of connection that we can enable to make sure that, we are touching base with each other. And I appreciate you sharing that you guys are opening the environment to ask, how are you doing? And I think that sometimes we lose sight of the impact of that question and the response that we may potentially get from it as well, especially if we're asking it from a place, directly from the heart. I think I always use the example of like when you're crossing a colleague in the hallway, and you're like, hey, good morning, how's it going? Good. Okay, have a great day, bye. Right? And I always like to tell our teams that there's so much more really that can be involved in that if there's a little bit more heart. And if somebody responded back to you and said, I'm doing okay, are you just saying, okay, great, have a nice day? Or are you really kind of taking the opportunity to sit and be that emotional support and say, just okay, what's going on? You want to chat? Do you want me to touch base with you later? And so, you know, back to kind of your comment, Josiah, it is a different way to just think about how we are connecting with each other. And especially right now in our new normal, what does that really look like? So I appreciate that.
And yeah, and something I can add to this is, I mean, our agency is trying, you know, to be trauma informed with our participants, but also, you know, within the agency. And so when we do have our huddles, which we usually have in the morning, standing in a circle, it's just a 10-minute huddle. But if we pick up that somebody says, I'm okay, or it's near tears, it's not like that we're going to put them on the spot right in that huddle, but we do have some people that will follow up and say, hey, you know, at least as an offer, would you like to talk about this? Do you want to go? You know, we have a secure room where we can, like our domestic violence room, where we have a little privacy on the couch. It's a little bit more relaxed. And we have found that just caring, I mean, they're not necessarily wanting to share, but just caring gets them through the day.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hear you on that one. You know, the trauma-informed training, we do quite a bit as well in my daytime job. And, you know, we don't always need to call people out, you know, when they say it. But I think I agree with you that it's important to circle back and just check in with someone as well. So all of that, thank you very much, can lead into role modeling. So really, are we modeling healthy work habits with each other? And each of the things that you guys outlined is definitely a piece of that as well. Because role modeling really requires supervisors to display. And that's through their own behaviors and guidance, how they integrate work-life obligations, and how they're engaging in self-care, especially during a crisis. Simply put, leaders should be setting an example for their teams. Effective role modeling behaviors can include making sure you stay up to date on safety and public health during COVID-19, and making sure that the responses are relevant to your team. Knowing about your most up-to-date wellness resources available to you and your staff, reminding people of these resources regularly in meetings, and considering posting information about wellness resources in your virtual workspaces, on employee websites or intranets if you have them, and any other shared spaces. Defining your own boundaries, and this is really, really important, especially since we are working from home. If you guys are like me, my hours are literally 5 a.m. to like 8 p.m., and I have not defined my boundaries very well. And I think it's important because we do have to develop preferences regarding our work hours, our response times, and disclosure around our family obligations, because not only do we have a job to do from 9 to 5 or whenever your hours are set, but our job doesn't end there if we have families to come home to. And especially for those children that are struggling with trying to maintain what their new normal looks like during this time as well. If you're projecting consistency in your ability to adhere to your own boundaries, you're able to allow staff that, again, that role modeling that's necessary so that they're able to kind of work throughout the course of their day to make sure that they're utilizing the best emotional support for themselves, which hopefully will transfer over to their families as well, so that those conversations are being had. If you have paid time off, obviously encouraging that when needed. Just because we're working from home does not mean that sometimes we need a break. Encouraging sick leave when needed. You know, right now, I think most importantly, we're just telling people just to be safe. If you don't feel good, stay home. And not feeling good doesn't mean I have the sniffles or a sore throat. Not feeling good maybe my mental health is kind of in check right now, and I really need some downtime to process and relax and respond. Encouraging your staff to do these things as well, kind of going through a checklist of the things that are going on for them. I think, again, asking those two important questions: where are you at emotionally and where are you at physically right now? And again, being able to help your staff find state and national level resources to assist them, especially if it's a situation where you have enough staff members that are eligible for any sort of protected leave. Are you staying on top of the, FFCRA and the emergency family medical leave? Are you staying on top of the ADA and what's available for that as well? Taking care of yourself, your friends, and your family can help you deal with stress. And it also helps others make it so that your community is stronger. If you're allowing yourself to be kind of that emotional support and that role model, like Lisa mentioned, their focus is on the community. And imagine how many lives they're impacting, which they may or may not even know about. Any questions about the last slide at all, or additional comments?
Well, it's been interesting for me, that modeling, because I have not always been the Zen master that I would like to be and model that. And so part of what I've been doing is just honestly letting my staff know when I didn't meet my own expectations of how to interact with others. I had unfortunately lost my cool last week, and yeah, just kind of shared with everyone how upset it made me to have done that, and then also explained that it's not something that anybody should do normally. So, and rewarding staff, I've just been so amazed at some of the folks here that look a little rough around the edges, but really have beautiful hearts and have been really supportive. So, and just we had a meeting, and one of the kind of gruff folks chimed in and said, "Well, Josiah, you're starting to talk about tit for tat," and I was like, "Oh, thank you so much. You're right. We need to just rise above that and be the best people that we can be." So.
It sounds like you and your team are practicing a lot of emotional literacy, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's been one of the things when we started the business, that we wanted to make it more than just a for-profit entity. So.
Thank you for that. Linda, thank you for joining. Can you hear us okay? Nope. Okay. We will keep going. So, validation. Yes, as I said before, this is a weird time for everyone. Remember, there are ways to cope and be mindful. Just a couple things we touched on earlier. The CDC recommends to take breaks from watching, reading, or listening to news stories, especially social media. That's probably the worst one of it all at times. That can reel us up real quick. Hearing about the pandemic repeatedly can be really upsetting to people. So again, you have to allow yourself kind of that debrief and that mental break to separate yourself from what's going on. Taking care of your body. So making sure, deep breathing, stretches, meditation, exercise, obviously, trying to eat healthy, well-balanced meals, get plenty of sleep, and avoid alcohol and drugs. I know this is hard for some people because that's a soothing mechanism for a lot of people. But it's a short-term effect, right? It's only good in the moment. It's not a long-term lasting solution. So what are some of those other things that we're using to supplement to, again, make sure that we're maintaining our own mental health? Take time to unwind. I think everybody talked about that a little bit as far as, watching the sunrise or the sunset, going for a walk in the garden, even just enjoying your morning cup of coffee and relishing in that moment is mindfulness. Try to do activities you enjoy, going for a walk, connecting with people, which can still be done virtually. We can still pick up the phone and have a conversation with people. On the flip side of that, making sure that if you're someone that maybe is prone to depression or high levels of anxiety, that you're having conversations with the right individuals, whether that's your counselor, your therapist, your pastor, your neighbor, your best friend, whoever that may be, but emotionally checking ourselves to make sure that we have resources that we can utilize within our own core system and our core function. And ultimately, what does the new normal look like for any of us? And I think that's something that we're each going to have to start defining, because at this point, we really don't know what the future is going to hold. And I think that unknown is really hard for people, and they struggle with that. And that's also where kind of anxiety and depression will start to come in and start to play. So really important, again, that those core people in your network understand where that emotional support is coming from, and that you're able to model that behavior and be that role model for them as well, because the best form of learning obviously is teaching it yourself. Talking about resources, so all I will say is utilize your resources. Each of you on this call today can be a resource to each other. And I think being able to really look locally at the community benefit and what's available. Obviously, the Chamber of Commerce has done an outstanding job trying to stay on top of everything from a legislative perspective down to the local business level and the impact that that's making on each of us. They have plenty of resources available. So if that's one place to turn, absolutely encourage you all to be able to do that and utilize it. What are other businesses doing in your industry? Have you reached out to, other hotels in the area? Have you reached out to, other maybe state or government agencies that, or other chambers of commerce to understand maybe what their current thought process is? What kind of documents or policies have they put into place, especially surrounding mental health? Also, what resources do you have available through your vendors? How many, I'm sure obviously on a higher level, Nadia, you guys probably have insurance that comes with an employer assistance program. Josiah, do you guys have an EAP that's associated with your insurance? No, okay. It's okay.
We don't have insurance, we're a small business.
Okay, that's what I figured. But I think, again, those are resources obviously from a higher level. EAPs definitely stay on top of the latest trends and make sure that they're getting information out and filtered to all of their constituents as quickly as they possibly can. Nadia, did you have a comment about it?
We have, yeah, we have good benefits, and yes, one of the benefits is the EAP. And then the other thing, before the pandemic started, we have memberships to Weight Watchers, and then the insurances offered the virtual lifestyle coaching or management, the VLM. And so many of us had signed up for that, and it seems that yes, the focus was on weight loss or weight management, but I feel that a lot of our employees that had signed up for that are getting kind of counseling support in other ways as well.
Yeah. And I think the other nice thing about that is you never know how their mindset or their business mentality or objectives have to shift, right? And so, okay, we're focused on weight loss, which we still can be, because I'm sure if you guys are like me, my refrigerator has seen a lot of action lately since I'm working from home. It's just really handy. It's right there. But I think being cognizant of that too, and how you evolve your business so that you are helping your members as much as possible. The other thing I was going to mention also is, even if you don't offer those resources as a benefit to your staff member, sometimes you can get standalone policies that are fairly inexpensive to be able to offer that out as an additional resource. Especially at times like this, when we're going through, certain crises or certain pandemics, they may actually offer a discount for a shorter period of time to be able to help those businesses utilize those resources as much as possible. Employment department obviously can be a resource right now, especially if you've had to furlough or lay off your staff. making sure that, you know, you're adhering to their policies and regulations as they're consistently changing with trying to meet the demands. You know, like Nadia had spoken about before as well, their workload has tripled, and they're trying to stay on top of that as much as they possibly can, but they're still a resource to the community. You know, how are, again, kind of going back to your vendors, you know, if there's, you know, your soda pop vendor or your food distribution like Cisco or somebody like that, you know, bending their ear when they're dropping off deliveries and just saying, what steps or protocols have you guys put in place to deal with this? Not only from just a day-to-day operations standpoint, but also just, again, from a mindfulness and mental health standpoint. I think we've all seen the changes that have happened within fast food and kind of what that looks like and how those interactions are going. I think, again, to stress the importance of patience when dealing with people that are in those environments as well, because they may not have the resources available to them like some of our larger organizations. Our insurance partners, like I mentioned, if you have legal counsel that you have available to you, a lot of legal counsel will send out email distribution lists that will maintain webinars or just information topics and links to important documents or websites or different organizations. Those are great distribution lists to be on because you can get a lot of information. The majority of the webinars that they produce are very relevant to current situations, and typically they're free. I say free as an operative term because you're probably already paying quite a bit for their services. You might as well utilize the resources that they're offering out to their communities as well. Insurance agencies will do this from time to time also. Maybe even your local CPAs, if there's some, you know, staffing changes or employment changes, checking in with them to see if they have any guidance or advice or resources available to you as well. And like I mentioned as well, yes, the government can help in times of need. I know that's hard to hear, but sometimes it is possible. Obviously, right now, the CDC, Oregon Health Authority, our local health department, these are all resources available to really help you get through more of the mental health and mindfulness awareness. If you have not checked out the websites for any of those agencies, I encourage you each to do that. There are great tips and recommendations, especially focused on mental health and how to move forward, and that emotional support mechanism as well. Also, and I'm going to push this, talk to your local government officials. There are things on the front lines of legislature that you're really concerned about. I know even with our community, with our city councilors and with our commissioners, there's been a lot of involvement as far as what is the role that you're playing at a state level? What is that looking like? What does phase 1 look like? What does phase 2 and phase 3 look like? How is that going to impact me as an individual or business or community? So if you have questions, I encourage you to reach out to those people because, again, they're the ones that are really kind of have that direct line to our governor, to our, our senators, everybody. So, Lisa?
Yeah, on that note, also don't be afraid to practice that mindfulness with them because they're on the front line and they're getting projected at from every angle that they're either screwing it up royal for us or they're doing a good job. And I can guarantee they're doing a good job is something they don't hear very often at all because all of us in leadership know we only hear the negative. I'm in communication with one of our county commissioners every week to know what are you doing, what are you fighting, what are you trying to do so that I can help you with either support letters or just to know that you've got a friend behind you covering you and supporting you. So don't be afraid to also show them some of that mindfulness. I purposely chose the position I have because I do not want to go into those positions whatsoever. I admire people who are in those leadership and politics on the front line. It's not an easy job, and their passion is amazing. So I just want to bring that up. I have really appreciated working with our commissioners and our city councilors, and then some other leadership that are feet on the ground that we're privileged to have in Wasco County. So yeah, do a little bit of that courtesy to them, and I know that that partnership will even go further.
Thank you for that. I think additionally, as you develop that relationship, it's also a mechanism to be able to help communicate truthful, valid, factual information back out to the community, so that obviously we are limiting as much as kind of the gossip and rumor mill as much as possible. Because ultimately we all know it doesn't help anybody at the end of the day. I would also, on kind of the government piece of it, you know, put the website for City Council or for Wasco County as a quick link on your internet, just so that you can stay on top of what they are doing, so that you have an idea, again, what's going on for that local level, that state level, but additionally, what are they working on from just internally with their own policies and procedures that can be additional resources for you to utilize as well. Also, obviously, the health department right now is at the front lines of all of this in our community. So I know that, you know, Dr. Mimi McDonald and Terry Tellifer are working their little heinies off, and they are trying to get that information out to our community as fast as they can. So if there's questions or concerns, definitely get in contact with them as well. All right. Comments, suggestions? What are you doing that we haven't talked about? What are we doing that maybe you want to share and you feel has been really useful currently during this whole situation? Any additional resources that you have found to be super helpful that you wouldn't mind sharing?
So I do have a question.
I know it.
Go ahead, Nadia.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have the job of communicating to very many all at once. We would like our communications to have a little bit more of that mindfulness, but our job is to get out the facts quickly and the resources quickly. How do I, and Josiah might be able to chime in as a member and seeing some of this stuff, but how do I portray that passion and care, the mindfulness, while communicating with 500 or more people, so that my smaller staff doesn't have to call each member individually to see how they are?
I think that's a great question. I would say my recommendation essentially is you can still have a factual based communication method. And if that's one email, then that's one email. And maybe the mental health mindfulness is a totally separate correspondence that can be sent out, so that you're still encouraging kind of that active participation, just on a different level. And you're also making sure that you're able to kind of, again, see that heart that's coming across of why you guys are doing what you're doing, why you're passionate about it, and knowing that obviously the community is what moves you forward. So I think keeping it separate may have a bigger impact and a better response.
Okay, thanks.
Nadia, did you have a comment?
I have to think of what I wanted to say. I don't know if I forgot it or not. Senior moment. Well, I feel that, you know, through this conversation, or what you brought forward, is that we're so concerned about other people, trying to troubleshoot, help with you know, people in need, because they're our clients, and we run around that. Number one, we forget the self-care, and number two, we forget to ask other people. So that's a really good you know, reminder to make sure that, you know, if it takes a village, but if the village is sick, how are you going to help others? So you kind of have to make sure and remind yourself, and I think we're doing a good job with some of our teams, but I'm sure there are a lot of people that don't want to come forward and they still struggle. And I would say I'm a positive person. I have overcome so many challenges, and I struggle. And so that, you know, just realizing that I have my struggles, and then I find myself sometimes, I'm like, I don't really know. I just feel blah. I just feel weird, just weird, not the person that I usually see when I wake up in the morning, and to overcome that. Not everybody has those survival skills saying, yeah, it's going to be fine. Let's just hit the reset button and then help God and the world. And then at the end of the day, I still feel blah. And I don't really know why. And when you talk to others and you find out that it's a normal reaction to what's going on. I mean, just because I sit on my hill and I don't really go shopping, I mean, I'm in town once a week, I realize, oh my gosh, this is really what's going on. This is weird. When you isolate yourself and you have the luxury to be out in the country, and you don't really see this day to day, I can't imagine people on the ground, people in the hospitals, people that see this every single day and that are in the pandemic. I mean, I took myself out of it, and I get reminded once in a while, and then I think, oh, well, one of those days I just go back to town and it's all over. Well, it's not over. Yeah. And we're in this. So I just hope, with who is in the room right now, that sometimes it is scary when you have been secure and self-sufficient to go to a SNAP office. It's not the normal. I mean, I don't know what I would do if I would have to face that. And I had situations where I had to put my kids, on OHP, and we were on WIC because we had darker times, even us, at the beginning when we started up as a family. So I can only encourage every single one, especially with the pandemic EPT card that has been approved for the summer or right now, that everyone should just apply for food stamps if you have school-age children, and hopefully you can distribute that. And I can send you some more specific information, Lisa, if you wanted to send that out, because these are federal funds and they're available. They're available to all the school children, and you're either getting these allocated to your SNAP account that already exists, which is the EPT card, the Oregon Trail card, or if you don't have a food stamps case and you're on free and reduced lunches, that would be something automatically sent to you because you're on a case for that. But there are many out there that are not receiving either one. And there's no shame to apply for this because these funds are available. I mean, it is $64 for March. It is $124 for April and June, and then $64 again, I think, for July. And, eligibility requirements they're not harsh right now. We're not asking for pay stubs. So anyway, I can send you the information if you want. If you want to be on my distribution list for resources, let me know.
Great. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Thank you, Josiah. I appreciate you being here this morning. Okay, great. So that is all I had. I appreciate the participation today. Because like I said, I think, it takes all of us to learn from each other and know what's available. But like you said, Nadia, as well, especially during this time, take care of yourself, take care of your family, be cognizant and mindful of what's going on, and validate your feelings, right? And know where your resources are to be able to get help or even just help others. So if you have questions, if you want to contact me in the future, I'm happy to chat. My information's on the screen, and I will give Lisa the slides for this presentation.
Thank
That
you.
would be awesome. Thank you, Nichole.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa, for posting that.
You're
I mean,
welcome.
I go through, I've been trying to convince DHS on all levels in all counties to join the chamber, and they say, well, OAD is on the chamber, and so we don't need another one. But I'm fighting that. I'm trying really hard because a membership would really help us, to connect to the community on another level. But in the meantime, I think, I feel confident enough that I have networked with the chamber and have reached out and kind of shared information and look at your website on a regular basis to share what I can with our staff. And so I'm very, very thankful for this.
Good. Nichole, we appreciate you doing this. I greatly appreciate you doing this. And then just so you guys know, I will email all of this probably tomorrow out to our people who registered. And then this will be hosted on our website underneath the webinar page. And so that people can go back and watch it. And so then you can share it, Nadia, with your team and all of those different pieces. So at that
great.
note, yes. And so at that, everybody have an amazing day. I'm going to end this meeting now, and we will see you soon, and hopefully in person and not all on Zoom.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, Lisa. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too.